Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Dracy. You know who I am by now. I'm Anchor to the Stars. I inked lots of big time books over living legends and young whelps. So, Bizarre Adventures. This was the last magazine-size issue of Bizarre Adventures. In a previous episode, I covered the next issue, which was Special Hate the Holidays episode or issue, and this one's theme is a hard look at violence. And beautiful Joe Jusko cover from '81. I mean, he's been great for 40 years. Wow, that's a long time. And he's still doing great stuff. So Bizarre Adventures, it was originally Marvel Preview, which in another couple episodes introduced Star-Lord by Steve Englehart and Steve Gann, and then Claremont and Byrne did a complete retcon. Maybe it was a legal issue, I don't know, but it don't matter. Eventually, a lot of other books got there were more Star-Lord issues, and it was the first full-length Moon Knight story that was by Doug Moench and Bill Sienkiewicz. Okay, enough of that. So the adventure magazines really took a nosedive in the early 80s. Marvel and Warren Publishing, they were printing money with all these great black and white magazines, and you had Heavy Metal and or Metal Hurlant. And that was just a big deal, but I don't know what happened in the 80s. But my closest guess would be that thank you, phone. That the direct market, which helped save comics at the time, I think they were able to get away around the Comics Code. Like, these magazines were not they weren't tethered by the Comics Code. So I think you had a lot of indie books and a lot of even Marvel books that didn't have to conform to the rules of the Comics Code. Yeah, Code. So let's get going. Enough of my jibba jabba. Now, you gotta buy this issue. You gotta do it. Because it is a murderer's row, pardon the pun, of talent that's a snapshot of Marvel. Denny O'Neil, Frank Miller, Larry Hama, Ralph Reese, Mark Gruenwald, Bill Sienkiewicz, John Byrne, Larry Hama again, Mark Armstrong, Joe Delbo, Tom DeFalco, Herb Trimpe, Steve Bissette, Steve Perry, Steve Skeets, and Steve Smallwood. A lot of Steves. And it's edited by Denny O'Neil. And he also starts the first story with no other than Frank Miller. Now, this is another thing that started happening in Marvel at the time. Copyrights, keeping some copyrights. Story copyright Denny O'Neil, art Frank Miller. Really, really great experimental stuff. And Klaus isn't inking this, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not hurting by it. It's good for people to experiment. And later on, I wish Klaus would have continued inking them, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, this guy shows up he had traveled quite a way, lifeless gray river, and since he's been trudging across the ashen plain that was once eastern Missouri, he shows up at this art lover who has killed people who have to get artwork, and he just shows up nonchalant, says, you are a warrior, of course, your garb tells me as much. Welcome, dear swordsman, to the art museum. I am a curator. And he allows them to eat and have some tea, some very special tea. And you know what that means in comics. Why this guy's just not out and out killing him, I don't know why. And there's some arcane reason. Maybe he just wants to learn more about this guy that he's going to end. Beautiful, stats of famous paintings and such. He says, where was I? The ugly mob. I must confess, I was glad when the shift wiped them away like a clean, cold cloth wiping away crude scrawls on a slate. Hey, I read that pretty good. Beautiful, white out, white pen effects for the steam, and it sort of gives him hallucinations, or are they? So the guy steps out of the painting. More and more. Beautiful work. And he's just fighting. All these figures are coming out of it, but again, he's not sure if it's a dream state, which it most likely could be. He says, to give your death meaning by bowing before the only true majesty that we pretentious children of apes could have ever produced. Are you hearing me? What I'm saying is important. Blah, 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 blah. It'll take me hours to clean up, but I'll have the last laugh. Gets gored. I don't suppose I had any right to expect anything else from a Philistine. Look at that last panel. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful. And that's, Frank Miller was still doing Daredevil at the time, I believe. Now, Larry Hama, he's a talent. He wears so many hats. It's crazy. He writes, he draws, he inks. He can do mean Neil Adams when he wants to. He is also an actor. There's even one scene in a late series of the original cast of Saturday Night Live where he's like in the background. And he's just a very well-rounded guy. And Ralph Reese's finishes are just so spectacular. Dr. Death with Kip and Muffy is post-apocalyptic kind of stuff, But this was before it became cool to do in a humorous vein. Blister don't care. He got the best one. Open the door, Pa. Blister bring home food. And, again, copyright. And, they bring this gal. That's just amazing. That is just amazing. And these are very, they're very wacky packages, but as if they really lived. It just gives them that. It's a great cartoony effect, but also, it's the proportions are normal. He's like, just give me a snack, an ear or two. Don't do it, old Dr. Death will be sneaking up on. Back then, the Comics Code would not allow that, but doesn't matter. These are freewheeling stories. Dr. Death, that's what they call me. This one's still twitching. Nice cannon. Smith Model 25 with the 45 ACP. There's a whole nest of muties in the diner down below. I know. And I've got a friend Muffy. I know. Anything you don't know? Yeah. You coming with me, or are you going to stay here and mope? I just love he has that simple boyish, Tintin kind of face. And everything else is, it's just so disturbed. There's some glorious graphic violence. She misses chopping her head. And she gets her free, and more and more chaos. Loved this. Whack. It's just insane, but it's gloriously absurd. And she's begging. No, I didn't. They made me do all this, and I love that face. The hair, the body, and everything. They blow her away, and they take off. Best thing, fade out, music up, roll credits. So already, you're getting your money's worth, but then we get Mark Grunwald and Bill Sienkiewicz, who I think this is the only project they worked on together. And so this woman's writing a story about how happy her life is, and she gets gored at the end of the movie. P.U. What a plotless, pointless, artless exercise in unmotivated mayhem that was. So he's a reviewer of movies, and he writes, Gore Galore is a plotless, pointless, artless exercise in unmotivated mayhem. Goes on and on. I love the black and white stuff. And he's writing this down, and this hooded guy behind him says, damn, went by too fast. You kidding? Sitting through that was like having an itch in a spacesuit. The credits of the film, not the filth of that film. And nervously, the reviewer gives him the book. So there is a rap party that is by the same producer who's finished another movie. And the hangman shows up. And he's like, I don't need trouble. I'm out of the horror pictures now. Honest, I try to make it legit. And he tries to do the diving board, and he gets strung up. Amazing stuff that goes on. And over time, our film critic guy, he notices that the victims are the names that were in his book. And so he feels responsible for, there he's gacking. You don't see a lot of that kind of stuff reaction when bad stuff goes down. So this is very earthy, very realistic. And he sneaks himself into Paragon Studios with a, okay by me, you can deliver these 20 boxes of donuts and sign here. So he just kind of snuck into a wrap party. And there's our pal who's just out in the open, just bold as can be. And he starts, he's killed a woman, but I'm not going to tell you anymore. There's actually a lot more going on. It's just, there's no, I don't want to spoil it, okay? John Byrne, his contribution. There's people in the church that have all very distinct features. Save our folks from filth. God hates smut. And there's a memorial library from somebody, Winifred Hope. And they go in and they burn books, and they say, violence wears many faces. Now, that was some time ago, and we're sort of going through that now. It's like a big thing. Not necessarily church-oriented. It's just stuff that offends people many years after the fact. So we get Recondo Rabbit. Larry Hama, creation. Larry Hama was in he was in the Vietnam War, so he has a lot of experience with that, and he was on our side. And even though it's just a mess, if you could call any side a side, but just an amazing, well-rounded person. So this, youngish guy, he's loading up, and I took a big swig at Big Billy Bear. I must have been plowed. So you got this black guy, and he goes, "Oh, you put a slice of carrot on that. Draw out the bad blood. Leave me be, you old coot. You're gonna get more ordinary. I'm so bored I can't tell if I'm alive." And he goes, "You feel alive when you smack Big Bill upside the fist with your face? Damn straight. I was scared pelletless ever since that. I never felt that alive since I was 17." And it was the first of the Miracle in the Central Highlands. Now, the art is very cartoony, but it's played completely straight. It's very, very well informed information. How Charlie get his ack that close to our perimeter. Geez, top, send out the A-team to zap that son of a no-go, blah, 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 blah. So, things get worse. Old Top was so right. I wanted to puke. Night fell so fast, I thought my eyeballs fell out. Yo, belt fed, Charlie is close, and you could hear him out there turning our claymores around. And then he goes, shh, that's a damn... Oh, burp, that's a damn wire cutter. I should have locked the traverse on the wire while. And then Pellet had popped some white phosphorus thinking to surprise Charlie in the wire. Beltfed must have been surprised too. It was hard to tell though, the way his face just disappeared like that. And, Ricardo Rabbit's just going and going. He's just fighting and, he's totally locked in. Multiplying pellets. And there was more action. The rabbit going to heaven with a cigar. And then click. And he ran out of bullets. I requisitioned belt feds. 45, and it was soaked with blood and guts and God knows what. But then a slimy piece of pig iron in my hands. I felt like $1,000,000. So he basically just wipes out the enemy. It was wonderful because he was just locked into that strange feeling that servicemen can get if if they have to experience such stuff. Sometimes you shut down, and I don't want to say do your job. That's kind of crass. You ever been that excited, Ralston? Hell yeah. About 15 years ago, some young Turk came by on his payroll day, turned up Roscoe and said, here's a stick up. I pulled out my old Parabellum and said, drop it before I drop you. Hey, can I see it? Sure, I got to take my afternoon movement. This is a WW2 German Army Luger. You bet. Took it off a dead Kraut in Monte Casino back in 44. And he's yapping, and meanwhile, our pal, he takes off, and we have a pretty idea what's going to go on. Now, I know this looks much more comic book like. This is Herb Trimpe, but he was in the service, and he is very skilled at drawing paramilitary stuff, which made him perfect for G.I. Joe. And he also went back early days of the Hulk when they had the Hulkbuster base. I mean, the environments were just natural. So, story Tom DeFalco, art by Herb Trimpe, copyright. And this is supposed to be in a police action in Afghanistan once the Soviet troops got in there. I remember that. It was a very, very strong move of aggression, actually, from the Soviet Union. So, now we get Steve Bissette, written by Steve Perry. And Steve Perry is a guy he's been on the periphery of comics. He's been around a long time, even by this point, but he just dabbles in comics. I don't know a lot of stuff that he's done. A Frog is a Frog. Now, my introduction to Steve Bissette, and this is years before he did Swamp Thing. I mean, this is like 3 or 4 years prior, and he's already got this really disturbing imagery. He's talking about comics. I'm sick of reading comics. Boom, let's try this. And he wants him to eat a bug. You know the club rules. And you're never any fun anymore. Everything's the same. Guess who's coming? That's Janie Henderson, the new girl in Miss Morgan's class. You want to kiss her, don't you? I do not. Shut up, Boomus. And they start doing, here comes Wally with the baby carriage. And he goes, you pushed me on a nail. That real blood? Yeah, and it hurts. Kind of looks fake, don't it? No, it's not. So this kid has just a very disturbed mindset. He kills frogs. The kid's kind of upset, and he sees a monster in the water for a second, but he knows it's all make-believe. Bam, 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 bam. What are you hammering in there, Wally? Nothing. So this, Boomer guy, he's obsessed with death, and he's a creepy guy who's most likely unsupervised, and he's just dangerous. And he gets pushed into this water that they're both looking at. The underground river, they hit suck stuff right down to the bottom. Tommy got sucked down in 1978. It was on all the papers before he moved here. They just drowned, and he shoves his friend into the water. That is amazing. I could have been killed. And Wally, where'd you go? And he senses something has happened in his absence. And that's just disturbing, but it's very true looking. Boom. Go home, Boomus. And I can't tell you the ending because it's just too much of a trip. It's heavy stuff and scary stuff. And Bissette just really, he was way ahead. This is the backup Bucky Bizarre, which I've never really cared for. Beautiful, beautiful art, and it's cute. And, the humor is okay, I guess. It's just, it's cute, and that's about it, all I could say for it. It has a little zinger at the end. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. And this is a really good book. And as I said, I've teased a lot of stuff in here, and it's all it's worth it. Back then, $1.50 in 81. That was a great deal. And you had the top talents of Marvel at the time. Anyway, that's it, and I hope you like it. And I will talk to you all later with another review of an old, fun, funny book. And take it easy. Bye.